For over a century, the planet Mars has been an enduring theme in science fiction. From Martian invaders to human plans to transform the Red Planet into a second home world. Today, science fact is replacing science fiction. And to many people, it seems clear that mankind's destiny as a spacefaring species lies here on Mars rather than on the Moon. They're known as the Mars Direct Lobby. Others disagree, concerned that such a step may be a giant leap too far. They are known as the Moon First Lobby.
Mars has been the planet that has captured the imagination of science fiction writers, and a lot of people in my business cut their teeth on science fiction. So they read science fiction, they watched science fiction movies and television as kids. Now they're adults, they're working in the business they always wanted to, and to them, it's obvious you go to Mars. Mars is the planet that's most Earth-like of all the rocky planets, in the sense that it has a reasonably equitable climate. It has evidence for past internal heat. It has evidence for the presence of water in a variety of states. So of all the planets, it is the one most likely to have originated life. And people want to know if that's true or not. So that drive, that question, has sent a lot of people off the deep end of saying, well, Mars is the obvious target, it's the next target. We've been to the Moon, we've done that. And I think that's looking at it the wrong way. I don't deny that the origin of life is an important scientific question, but there are a lot of important scientific questions, and that's one of many. And the reason I advocate lunar return is that if you build my system, you can go everywhere. See, I don't just want the Moon, and I just don't want Mars, and I just don't want asteroids. I want all of that. And the way to get all of that is to build a system that's robust, that's incremental, that allows you to gradually but continuously extend your reach.
I don't necessarily look at Moon versus Mars. I basically look at, what's the logical progression to get to Mars? Can I use the lunar surface as a proving ground before I go to Mars? Now, the environments are obviously different. Mars has an atmosphere, even if it's tenuous. Its seasonal variations are different than the Moon, but there's enough things that you can do on the Moon that could help you get to Mars. What's going on now is a lot of countries are looking at Mars as being, a bridge too far at the moment. That's fine. And therefore, the Moon makes a lot more sense. It's relatively close. The United States has been to the Moon. So to a certain extent, it's not a been there, done that, but we know we can do it again. There are countries that are just literally getting outside of Earth orbit for the first time. So going straight to Mars really doesn't make a lot of sense for those countries.
The people in China and people in India and Japan, they want to see people on the Moon from their country in their lifetimes. They want to do it. They don't want to sit around and talk about it. They want to do it. And so I think that's why there's intense international interest in the Moon. It's a goal that's achievable. It's a goal that has value in terms of creating spaceflight capability. And it's something that excites a lot of their supporting public. So they're very interested in the Moon.
To many in the Moon First community, the practical benefits of being able to test a new generation of off-world technologies are very appealing. Not least because, if anything goes wrong, help is only days away rather than months or even years. But that's not the only reason to return to the Moon.
The second thing, though, is the Moon on its own has tremendous resources and a reason for being there besides just science. And so whether it's the minerals and the types of different metals that may exist on the Moon, whether it's water, those are things that society can use. So in 30 or 40 years, hopefully we've started to not just go to the Moon and look at the rocks and set up telescopes and things like that, but we're actually trying to use it commercially.
And on the face of it, the commercial value of the Moon could be literally out of this world. Distilling rocket fuel out of moon rock could be extremely profitable, as could mining platinum metals and rare earths. And the rare isotope helium-3 could turn out to be priceless. It may be the most valuable substance known to humankind, and unlike the Earth, the Moon has millions of tons of the stuff distributed across its smiling face. The list of lunar goodies just keeps growing.
this has obvious commercial value. And in fact, it will never be done as a government program. It's always going to have to be, there's going to have to be some commercial value and some group of investors and operators to make this thing work on a long-term basis. Now, my feeling is that the best way to induce commercial activity on the moon is to have NASA lead and show that it's possible, to show how difficult it is and what it costs, and then have the private sector take that over and innovate.
In the last few years, over a dozen companies have begun to make their spacefaring intentions public. Some are offering economical trips to low Earth orbit. Others are offering innovative space habitat solutions. Yet others are promising to cash in on the resources to be found on the moon and on asteroids. In each case, the plan is to hasten slowly, to take small steps that can build upon the one before.
Remember, we didn't first land the lunar module on the moon. We first landed a small little thing called Surveyor, and we actually crashed a few things called Ranger before that. So we started small to learn how to do it, to show that it could be done. And that's sort of the approach being taken by the small companies like Moon Express and Astrobotic and the Israelis, who are all competing for the Google X Prize. And that's the first step. That's the way to sort of let people get their feet wet with the concepts of designing spacecraft, delivering small payloads. That's one way to develop a commercial industry, is to seed it with a prize and let people compete for it.
The Google Lunar X Prize challenges privately funded spaceflight teams to land a robotic spacecraft on the moon, travel 500 meters, and then send back high-definition video and images of the terrain. The winning team will net a cool $20 million. But the bigger goal is to incentivize entrepreneurs to create a new era of affordable access to the moon and beyond, and to inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, and explorers. Many observers believe that the next boot print on the moon will be Chinese, closely followed by those from the host of other nations who dream of becoming spacefarers. They too will proudly plant their national flags in the moon's unforgiving regolith. Interestingly, some say symbolically, when they get around to looking for the 6 American flags planted by the Apollo astronauts, they may be surprised by what they find.
Those flags have been on the moon now for almost 50 years, and they've been exposed to the full fury of 14 days of lunar sunlight, where the sun is searing their surface, and it gets up to the surface temperature is 100 centigrade at noon, and the numbing cold of lunar night, which follows 14 days later, and it gets down to minus 150 C. And if you look at any flag that's been out on Earth for a long period of time, you'll notice that the colors are faded. I suspect that the flags on the moon are largely white because they've been bleached by solar ultraviolet for 50 years. In a way, that's kind of symbolic. We've got 6 flags planted by Americans on the moon. All of them are now white.
That symbolism reflects the essence of the United Nations Outer Space Treaty, which clearly states that the exploration and use of outer space, including the moon, is the province of all mankind. Time will tell whether that treaty will hold as a new era in space exploration and development dawns. But what is certain is that our moon and our solar system are about to be changed forever.